Greetings. I am Jalen Randolph, an occupational health consultant with Presidium Consulting, and today I'll be talking about the hazards of cell phone use. This is a student presentation using a hypothetical scenario for educational purposes. The presenter is a student at UAMS, not a representative of the agency named in the following slides. The information contained herein does not necessarily reflect the views of said agency. In this presentation, I will be talking about why are cell phones hazardous, electromagnetic radiation, exposure limit guidelines, who responds, ways to protect yourself, germs, the impact of cell phone use on vision, general cell phone usage while driving, teen cell phone usage while driving, and risk factors associated with cell phone usage. Why are cell phones hazardous? Mobile phones transmit radio frequency radiation, radio waves, from their antennas. Portions of the body closest to the antenna can absorb the energy the phones give off. Electromagnetic radiation is defined according to its wavelength and frequency, and it also is determined by its frequency. We see at the bottom of this the electromagnetic spectrum. At the electromagnetic spectrum, there are two ends. At the latter end, we see radio waves and microwaves. On that end, they are lower frequency and they have longer wavelengths. On the latter end, we see X-rays and gamma rays. They have a higher frequency and they have shorter wavelengths. That's why they are more dangerous to the body because they heat up the body more. Electromagnetic radiation. Electromagnetic radiation is defined according to its wavelength and frequency, and also the energy is determined by its frequency. There are two types, ionizing and non-ionizing. Examples of ionizing electromagnetic radiation are X-rays, radon, and cosmic rays. Exposure to ionizing radiation is known to increase the risk of cancer. They also yield a high frequency and have a high energy. And it is also known that ionizing electromagnetic radiation can cause harmful genetic mutations that can be passed on to future generations. Non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation is radio frequency and extremely low frequency, power frequency. They yield a low frequency and have a low energy. They don't carry enough energy to ionize atoms or molecules. Exposure limit guidelines. The limits of radio frequency exposure are given in terms of specific absorption rate, SAR. SAR is the rate of radio frequency absorption per unit mass of the body. There are only two international bodies that have these guidelines. When you measure SAR, the phone is placed against a representation of a human head, and the value is then measured at the location of the highest absorption rate in the head, which is often as close to the phone's antenna as possible, which is usually at the base of your ear, as you can see in the photo. As we can also see, a safe limit is 0.34 and a very harmful limit is 5.78. World Health Organization, WHO responds. As we all know, the World Health Organization is responsible for international public health. And in 1996, the WHO established the International Electromagnetic Fields (EMF) project to assess the adverse health effects of electromagnetic fields. WHO additionally recognizes and advances research needs for radio frequency fields and help to fill holes in information through its examination plans. WHO also creates public data materials and advances exchange among researchers, governments, industry, and people in general to raise the degree of comprehension about potential health risks regarding cell phones. Ways you can protect yourself. To this day, there is no scientific evidence that directly links wireless devices to cancer or other illnesses. Ways you can diminish radio frequency exposure, however, you can reduce the amount of time you spend on your phone. You could use devices such as headphones, a headset, or an earpiece to reduce the exposure of your phone being near your head. Being in the generation we are now, having things such as AirPods or earphones is very common. You can also increase the distance between wireless devices and your body. Instead of carrying your phone in your pocket, you can possibly have it in your bag or have it somewhere that's not as close to your body as it would be in your pocket. Cell phones and germs. Students in an environmental health course at Southern College, Columbia, found that cell phones were as often possible sullied with methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA. Staphylococcus skin infections, which include MRSA, can turn into painful abscesses. If not treated correctly, the bacterium may go deeper into the body and cause life-threatening infections in bones, joints, surgical wounds, the bloodstream, heart valve, and lungs. What many people do not realize is that when it comes to cell phones, they're not as clean and not properly taken care of as they should. I know I don't clean my phone as much, and I know others don't as well. And it's a risk of having germs on your phone. And one major germ that is very common actually it can happen is Staphylococcus. So to reduce that risk more is to possibly just clean your phones off. Instead of having it in the case all the time, clean your cases off, clean the back of your phone off as well. The impact of cell phone use on vision. Steady viewing the small text and bright screens can cause a strain on a person's eyes. The eye must constantly have to refocus and reposition itself to process the graphics and text which comes across the screen. Common symptoms of eye strain are eye redness or irritation, dry eyes, blurred vision, eye pain, neck pain, and headaches. Cell phone usage while driving. The National Safety Council has reported that using cell phones while driving leads to 1.6 million crashes per year. Almost a total of 390,000 accidents occur from texting while driving a year. 1 out of every 4 car accidents in the United States is caused by texting and driving. So let's say out of 100 car wrecks, 25 of those were caused by texting and driving. That is very, very outstanding of a rate, and it needs to greatly change. Driving while texting causes 1.6 million car crashes a year. 20% of US drivers reported sending emails or text messages while they were on the road. In 2018, the number of deaths from cell phone related car accidents was 4,637. These are some very outstanding rates and numbers that were recorded in 2020. Since we had to transition into this new age of telecommunications through technology via internet, having to always meet these deadlines, it created kind of a vice, making people do this more and more. That's why it needs to come to an end. Teens and cell phone usage while driving. 21% of teen drivers involved in accidents that were fatal were distracted by their cell phones. Teen drivers are 4 times more likely to get into car crashes or near crashes when they are either talking or texting on their cell phone. In terms of having passengers, a teen driver with only one passenger more than doubles the risk of them getting into an accident. And with them having either 2 or more passengers, it increases that total by more than 5%. Just about 11 teenagers a day die due to texting and driving. And like I said before, overall, there are 1.6 million car accidents caused by texting every year. And a major percent of it comes from teens. Risk factors associated with cell phones. In view of blended epidemiological evidence on people with respect to a relationship between introduction to radio frequency radiation from remote telephones and head cancers, such as glioma and acoustic neuroma, radio frequency fields have been arranged by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as perhaps cancer causing to people. Perhaps cancer causing to people, if I may reiterate. Studies to date, they give no sign that natural presentation to radio frequency fields, such as ones from base stations, build the danger of malignancy or some other illnesses. The only thing with cell phones is that when they are utilized near some clinical devices such as pacemakers, implantable defibrillators, and certain hearing aids, there's a chance of causing impedance with their activity. And there's also the additional capability of obstruction between cell phone signs and airplane gadgets. That's why they tell you when you're on a plane to please cut your phone in airplane mode or cut it off because it messes with the airplane. Other risk factors associated with cell phones are headaches, decreased attention, shortness of temper, sleeping disorders, and depression. We mainly see these problems happening in teenagers who are primarily on their phones and whose brains are still developing and growing. And other risk factors associated with cell phones is that some studies have shown that there is a certain risk for pregnant women and their children. And it's also shown that cell phones have a harmful effect on the male reproductive system. All in all, through this, we see a plethora of things. Cell phones, they transmit radio frequency from their antennas. Radio frequency such as electromagnetic radiation, they include visible light, radio waves, gamma rays, and X-rays. We see that there is no definitive correlation between cancer and cell phone usage. But may I add that scientists have definitively agreed upon the fact that it can be a lead to cancer. Using your phone while driving has proven to have very harmful adverse effects, such as death. Texting and driving, it creates a killer dynamic that affects not only you, but everyone around you. because, like I said before, they cause 1.6 million car accidents a year. And the frequency of electromagnetic radiation is determined by its wavelength. The shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency. The lower the frequency, the lower the wavelength. Are there any questions that anyone may have? If anyone possibly has a question, feel free to contact me at jcrandolph@uams.edu. And once again, I'm a consultant with Presidian Consulting, and there's our website, www.presidian.com. And these are my sources.